Hey guys, my name is Jason Rao, and this instructional is going to focus on the deli hiva position. So traditionally, deli hiva has been more of a gi position. Generally when you have the grips like the collar, sleeves, etc., it's a lot easier to manipulate your partner and manipulate their balance. But this is the way I like to approach deli hiva no gi. There's a few adjustments we can make that I think really make the position quite strong. We're going to go over like some off balances backwards, some off balances forwards, using either an ankle grip and then using an underhook or a scoop on our partner's legs. We're going to go over different ways that we can use the position to set up various leg attacks, back takes, and sweeps. All right, guys, we're going to go over some general concepts from the no-gi deli hiva position. So this position is traditionally used heavily in the gi with a lot of success. You see a lot of people very successful with it. And we have to make some adjustments to make it work in no-gi. So we're going to go over a few different positions that we're going to actually be using, and then the different options. Traditionally in the gi, deli hiva is like a great position to berimbolo from, which we can do no-gi, but it's going to focus a little bit more on using it to enter the legs and less to berimbolo, just because it's pretty difficult to do in a no-gi scenario. But basically, traditionally in the gi,
on a knee or
just standing is okay. Obviously in the gi, usually we have some type of cross collar grip or some collar sleeve grip, or like a combination of like the deli hiva with collar sleeve, lasso, far bicep, stuff like that. In no-gi, we really can't do this, and we're going to have kind of two main positions we're going to cover right here. But there's going to be less of an emphasis on actually placing the deli hiva hook, and we certainly will use it, and we'll use it to off balance our partner, but there's going to be a lot of using scoop positions and using the scoops to either invert one way or the other and start to enter our partner's legs. There's going to be almost no upper body control when we're doing this. It's going to mostly be leg control. So either using a deli hiva hook to start to come around the back, or using a deli hiva hook in combination with an inside hook to off balance my partner, or using a deli hiva hook with some type of scoop position as well to start to off balance my partner backwards. So we're going to see the adjustments that we're going to make in order to make this position, I think, very effective. If you guys watch someone like Levi Jones Leary, he's able to use kind of a traditional deli hiva in a no-gi scenario and have a lot of success with it. All right, so we're going to go over kind of, I call it like our standard deli hiva positioning, where I'm just controlling my partner's ankle. We're going to go over the few different positions we're going to be covering in the instructional. So I would say, standard deli hiva positioning, I have control of my partner's ankle. I can either be controlling all the way down at the end of the lever by its heel right here, or there's some variations where I will be grabbing my own thigh just like this, kind of like an overwrap grip. My second leg, I just got to be careful of a few things right here. I'm going to cover this in a little bit, but either this knee will be all the way to my chest, where it's going to be hard for Placido to step over the leg or start to leg drag it, or when I'm starting to come to the back, I will be placing that foot on the mat and starting to shrimp out to off balance my partner in this direction. So my inside hand, I generally just want to keep it relatively tight to my body. I don't like to reach up. Occasionally I will be grabbing the wrist, but most of the time I'm not getting any upper body control with this hand. This second leg, again, I can keep it nice and tight. I can put it on the mat. I can put an inside hook, start to off balance my partner in this direction, and then we're going to go into our various options here. So our kind of standard deli hiva position is grabbing the ankle. Deli hiva hook can be in. Second hook can be in. We can off balance. Or if we're looking for berimbolo variations, my foot's going on the mat to start to off balance my partner in a backwards motion. And as I'm using the deli hiva hook, and we're going to get into this, I also want to wrap the hook so it comes all the way around my partner's stomach. So that gives me the leverage to start to kick him and move him and off balance him in that direction. So that's kind of our standard positioning, and then we're going to go into scoop positioning and the common problems we're going to run into from this position. All right, so we covered kind of the standard deli hiva positioning. Now we're going to cover the underhook deli hiva. Again, we're not going to get into the techniques now, just the general positioning. But again, we're going to cover how to actually get here. But as opposed to placing a normal deli hiva hook in, we have a deli hiva scoop positioning or underhook deli hiva. I can use the deli hiva hook here as well, and I could start to come to the back, but a lot of times we don't necessarily need it. We just want to grab our own kind of shin or upper shin knee area right here. And a lot of times we'll be using this to use an inside hook to off balance our partner, and then go into some waiter guard positions. We have some false reap entries. there are a few different ways we can off balance the person. Also with this scoop, we can start to apply torque on my partner's knee and force his knee down to the mat and get back exposure this way. We will cover some kind of standard, like, barrel knockdown positions as well, but usually we either use the underhook to break my partner's knee down or off balance him forwards to some type of weighted guard position. Of course, we can go to a K guard. That's not going to be really the focus of the instructional, but K guard is a extremely effective position we can use here as well. So from underhook De La Riva, we have quite a few options we can go to as well. And personally, I feel that's probably a stronger control than the standard just holding the ankle from De La Riva. All right, so we're going to cover a few common issues that you can run into when playing either scoop De La Riva or normal De La Riva. And the first one is a leg drag. This is an extremely common counter that's taught from the top player. And basically the idea is, from my perspective on bottom, and we certainly will play with this inside hook, but a lot of times I want to keep this leg on the outside. And I can do various things with this, and my partner will look to leg drag this. Generally speaking, when we're in this position, I don't like to place the foot on the knee or hip like this. This kind of makes it very easy for him to set up the leg drag. So if I keep my knee to my chest, somewhere on like Lacido's left side of his body, it's a little bit harder for him to leg drag. But there's going to always be times where he's successfully able to bring the leg across the body. We have to recover right here. So first thing I want to do is I want to grab my own knee. So if there's an elbow-knee disconnect right here, that's giving him an opportunity to close that gap and start to pass the guard. Generally, when we're defending our guard, my elbows and my knees are connected. I'm in a good position. It's hard for him to get inside that space. So I grab my own knee. Now I will take my De La Riva hook out and I switch to a scoop. And we'll see in a second, I might already have the scoop and that makes this move that much easier. It's generally hard for him to leg drag on top when I do have the scoop. But if I don't have the scoop, I take the scoop and I use this not to pull myself in, but I kind of use my wrist to help me rotate and bring my knee to the inside. So now when he goes to complete the leg drag, because I have inside knee position, I have a few options right here. Personally, I like to just go to outside ashi, making sure I take my Achilles grip first, but I can do a number of things. I can invert all the way, start to go to K guard. Just come into me, leg drag. I can just use that to frame and recover my guard, end up feeding the hips. It's just a generally pretty strong position you can get to. So maybe in this case, I have the scoop ready. He leg drags. I grab my knee and I use this. I'm not pulling myself in. I'm using this to rotate my hips so my knee comes to the inside. Now from this position, I'm very safe. He's not going to be able to pass in this direction because I have this K hook on the inside. For me, I like to grab the knee, switch to an Achilles grip, pull my hips underneath. We end up at outside ashi, and we turn his leg drag into an attacking position for us. Sometimes when my partner leg drags, he'll start to drive head over head and start to stack me. And this can happen again with the scoop or just the ankle grip. He starts to leg drag. He starts to drive his hips into me just like this. When this happens, I'm going to self-frame on his, I'm not self-frame, I'm going to frame on his shin with my hand, making a C grip, and I'm going to wedge my elbow on the mat. So I could do it with my elbow inside or elbow outside. Now when he goes to drive into me, I'm framing my left elbow on the mat, and this hand comes inside the armpit, and I use this to off-balance him and make space. Once we're here, a lot of times I will invert my knee inside, and then we can move into kind of a similar situation that we did before. So again, this will always be easier with the scoop grip. Generally, scoop grip, much harder to get leg drag. If he leg drags, he starts to go head over head right here. I make this C grip, and I use this to invert my knee to the inside. And a lot of times we'll end up in backside 50-50 scenarios right here. So because of that position with either scenario, as he drags the leg across, I can just drive your knee down to the mat. Like this, I can use this C motion to wedge my elbow on the mat and then invert my knee inside, and we end up in a safer position. So dealing with the leg drag from either underhook De La Riva or a normal De La Riva position. All right, so this next option we're going to deal with is dealing with when my partner goes for like a flying knee cut or a knee cut position. So this is more common really only common when I'm grabbing the ankle. If I have the scoop position, it's really hard for my partner to do this. If you guys watch someone like Leandro Lowe or Andrew Wiltsey, they're super successful with this movement where they stuff your outside leg and they punch the underhook and knee cut. So I'll just have Placido show the movement first. But generally, for him to execute this, I have to be grabbing the ankle because that's when there's going to be more space in this position. He has to get rid of my De La Riva hook and then step over this outside leg. He's going to punch this underhook to the mat and throw his hips to my right. And he's going to kind of just pass my guard in one movement. I'm not going to have an opportunity to place my knee shield in if he does that correctly. So in terms of dealing with this, like obviously, number one, I don't want him to step over this leg, which is a lot of times why we advocate playing knee to chest, but that could leave us more open to leg drag. So a few things that we can do if we feel this is kind of coming from our partner. One, and we're going to get into this later, if I'm super deep with this this overhook hand where I'm kind of grabbing my own thigh, obviously, like Placido is not going to be able to execute this, but sometimes we can't get to that position right away. We kind of have to start in the De La Riva and then work there. So that's just something to consider. If I maintain the De La Riva hook, he really can't do this as well. So many times on top, he's going to push my knee down, turn his knee out, so I kind of lose that De La Riva hook. Now he's in a good situation to do this. So when he stuffs his leg right here, I want to bring my knee against the inner part of his thigh, just like this. So if you see my foot is externally, foot is externally rotated, my foot is externally rotated, my knee is internally rotated, just like that. So when he goes to try to execute this knee cut right here, it's going to be hard for him to throw his hips in that direction. So that's kind of our first option, or not first option, the first thing we're doing. Then, so I kind of externally rotate my knee, internally rotate my knee. As he goes to punch that under the mat, my hand comes inside his armpit. So when Placido goes to throw his hips in that direction, I can kind of keep him from actually successfully cutting that knee all the way through. It's just going to kind of stop his hips as he does that motion. So again, we're here, and he manages to clear the De La Riva hook. Come over, that leg comes to the inside. I bring my knee inside his thigh, externally rotate my foot. And when I feel him go for this, my hand goes in the armpit. It makes it hard for him to actually successfully knee cut. And a lot of times we can just recover our De La Riva guard. You will see options in the gi. And personally, I don't use this, but you will see people, as soon as the person steps over that leg, they come to the collar tie, they kick with the inside leg to force the hands on the mat, and then reset themselves, or do something like a pummel on the off balance. Personally, I don't really do that just because I don't like grabbing the collar tie in that position, but if that's something you have success with, you definitely can do it. So just one more time. He steps over. I basically switch the hook. I come to the collar tie, and I'm going to throw his weight over my right shoulder to get him to post his hands. Now from here, I can take my inside leg out, reset, or as soon as we get the hands on the mat, we can just pummel our legs to some type of leg entanglement. So dealing with the knee cut position from the De La Riva. One more thing. When we have our scoop, the reason we can't do it, when I'm holding the ankle, the weakness of my grip is the space between my fingers, right? So when Placido goes to knee cut this way, as he punches the underhook and he turns his body, it's going to break the grip on my hand, and he's going to be able to get out. When I have the scoop, he goes to do the same thing. The weakness of my grip is this way. So I'm taking this scoop in this direction. So when he goes to knee cut, even if he manages to get an underhook, which is hard for him to do, he goes to knee cut, he's just going to get stuck right here. So if you're on top going for this, it's nearly impossible to execute when the partner has a scoop. And when you're on bottom, just know you're going to be safe when you have that scoop position if they try to knee cut. All right, so we're going to go over now dealing with when our partner goes to stack us. This is one of the other common scenarios we'll run into when playing De La Riva without the gi on. So there's a few ways you can do this. Again, this could be whether I have a scoop, whether I have the ankle. A lot of times he might get under this leg with the V grip and was to push my leg above my head. When this happens, I use that movement to kind of invert, and then I can just invert my knee inside. Very similar to the leg drag. I can use this V grip. If I already have the scoop, I can use the scoop. Then I use this to re-pummel my legs. We go into any attack on this leg, either a K-guard, an outside ashi, whatever we'd like to do right here. So I just have to use the momentum of that stack position to bring my hips up. So in this case, maybe I have a scoop. He gets under this leg and gets a V grip right here. When he does that, it can either be with this arm or you do it with the other arm too. I use that to invert my leg inside, and now we can go into various counterattacks right here. Just as long as we have like the correct responses in these positions, that's super important. Another common scenario is he takes a scoop on my far leg, like this right here. So this could be very bad. If I just stay holding onto the ankle, he can get two scoops, and then I'm in like a stack position. So when this happens, I want to bring my hamstring as close to his bicep as possible, and I start to address his thumb line. So I'm grabbing my fingers just like this, right on, I'm sorry, his knuckle line, not his thumb line. And I use that to start to pummel my leg back to the inside. I recover my angle. We end up in a good position. So again, it can be with the scoop as well. Same thing. He comes underneath. I make this like as heavy as possible. I control the knuckle line with my thumb and 4 fingers, and I look to pummel my foot back to the inside. Now I'm in a good position where I can recover my angle. And lastly, my partner will sometimes get what's called a cross scoop. Where instead of scooping with his left hand, he scoops under with his right hand, just like this. Same thing, I want to address the knuckle line, but very similar to the leg drag, because this is basically like a leg drag, with just a different group, with a different grip. I get my knee to the inside, and then I invert my other leg. I can pass his leg to the other side, and we can start to recover that right here. So very, very similar to the leg drag, because he's basically doing the same movement, but in this case, I'll just have the normal De La Riva. He sets up this cross scoop position right here. Underneath, I control the knuckle line. I start to get my right knee across his chest, and then I invert my left knee inside. Now in a position where we start to recover and end up in a good position. So dealing with the 3 stacking variations, pushing the feet above the head, a normal scoop, and then a cross scoop stack, how to deal with those positions.